Every time you hear Beyoncé hit those impossible high notes, every time Marvin Gaye's voice pierces straight through your soul, every time Whitney Houston makes you cry without even trying, you're hearing something ancient. You're hearing the echo of enslaved ancestors praying in cotton fields. You're hearing grandmothers clapping in wooden church pews. You're hearing the sound of survival itself. What if I told you that every single genre of American music, soul, R&B, rock and roll, even hip-hop, all of it was born in one place, the Black church. Not inspired by it, not influenced by it, born from it, created by it. Gospel music isn't just religious music. It's the mother of everything you've ever loved listening to. And they never taught you this. They never told you where the music really came from. They took the sound, made billions of dollars, and erased the people who created it. August 28, 1963. Lincoln Memorial, Washington, D.C. It's a Sunday afternoon, and the sun is beating down on 250,000 people packed onto the National Mall. This is the March on Washington for Jobs and Freedom. The air is thick with heat and hope and history in the making. On a makeshift stage, a woman stands wearing a simple black dress. Her name is Mahalia Jackson. She's 52 years old. She's the most famous gospel singer in the world. And she's about to do something that will change everything. Before Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. steps up to give what will become the most famous speech in American history, Mahalia opens her mouth and sings. No microphone needed. Her voice deep and powerful and filled with 300 years of pain and faith rolls across that crowd like thunder. She's singing "I've been booked and I've been scorned," an old spiritual from slavery times. People start crying immediately, not polite tears, sobbing, wailing, because they're not just hearing a song. They're hearing their ancestors. They're hearing their grandparents. They're hearing the sound of everyone who survived when survival seemed impossible. And then Dr. King starts speaking. He's reading from his prepared notes. It's a good speech, strong, important. But Mahalia can feel something missing. She knows Martin. She's sung at his rallies dozens of times. She's raised money for the Montgomery bus boycott. She's stood with him when the Klan threatened to kill them both. And she knows he's holding back. He's got something better than what's on that paper. So right there in front of 250,000 people, and television cameras broadcasting to millions. More, Mahalia Jackson shouts out, "Tell them about the dream, Martin. Tell them about the dream." Martin Luther King Jr. stops. He looks at Mahalia. He pushes his notes to the side. And then he starts speaking from his soul. "I have a dream." Those 4 words, the most famous 4 words of the 20th century. They came because a gospel singer told a preacher to stop playing it safe and tell the truth. That moment, that's the power of gospel music. It doesn't just entertain. It liberates. It transforms. It changes the entire course of history. This is the story they buried. This is your stolen inheritance. And after this video, you will never hear music the same way again. By the end of this video, you're going to know things that will fundamentally change how you see American culture. You're going to understand how enslaved Africans created spirituals as coded messages for freedom, singing directions to escape right in front of their enslavers' faces. You're going to meet Thomas Dorsey, the man who lost everything and turned his grief into the greatest gospel song ever written, the song that created modern gospel music. You're going to discover how Mahalia Jackson became the voice of the civil rights movement and sparked the "I Have a Dream" speech. You're going to see the direct line from gospel to soul, to R&B, to rock and roll, to hip-hop. How every genre America claims as its own came from one source, the Black church. And here's what they don't want you to know. This isn't ancient history. This affects your life right now today. This is why there's a wealth gap. This is why Black artists still get underpaid while white artists profit from Black sound. This is why they don't teach this in schools. Because if you knew the truth, if you understood that black people created the entire soundtrack of America and got almost nothing in return, you'd start asking very uncomfortable questions. Questions about debt. Questions about what's owed. Questions about reparations. This isn't just music history. This is your history. If you're black and over 45, your grandmother probably sang these songs. Your grandfather probably clapped to this rhythm in church. You carry this legacy in your bones, whether you know it or not. And if you're not black, if you just stumbled onto this video because you love music, then you need to know this too. Because every time you've been moved by a song, every time music made you feel something deep and true, you were experiencing the gift that came from people who had every reason to give up, and instead chose to sing. After this video, you won't be able to unhear the truth. You won't be able to listen to the radio the same way. You won't be able to accept the lies they told you in school. You're about to have your entire understanding of American music flipped upside down. And once you see it, you can't unsee it. Let's begin where it all started. Not in a recording studio, not on a stage, but in the darkest chapter of American history. In the cotton fields where people weren't even considered human. That's where the music was born. Picture a cotton field in South Carolina in 1820. The sun hasn't come up yet, but the enslaved people are already awake. They've been awake since before dawn. They'll work until after sunset. 16, 17, 18 hours of backbreaking labor, picking cotton until their hands bleed. Building wealth for white men who will never know their names, living in conditions worse than livestock, watching their children sold away, watching their wives raped, watching their husbands whipped to death. This is slavery. This is the foundation America was built on. And somehow, impossibly, these people found a way to sing. But here's what they never taught you in school. The enslaved Africans weren't allowed to keep anything from their homeland. White enslavers knew that culture is power. They knew that if enslaved people kept their languages, their religions, their music, they might organize. They might resist. They might remember they were human. So they banned it all. No drums, no African instruments, no speaking in native languages, no practicing traditional religions. Everything that made them who they were stolen, erased, forbidden. And then the enslavers did something incredibly twisted. They forced Christianity on the enslaved people. They made them attend church services where white preachers would stand up and say things like, "Slaves, obey your masters." They used the Bible as a weapon to justify slavery. They preached about a God who apparently wanted black people in chains. But here's the thing. The enslaved people were smarter than their enslavers gave them credit for. Way smarter. They took that Bible and they read it differently. They heard the story of Moses leading the Israelites out of slavery in Egypt, and they understood. That's us. We're the Israelites. Egypt is the South. Pharaoh is the plantation owner. And God wants us free. They couldn't say this out loud, of course. That would get them killed. So they did something genius. They created spirituals. These were songs that sounded like simple Christian hymns on the surface. Songs about heaven and Jesus and crossing the River Jordan. White people heard these songs and thought, good, the slaves are accepting their place. They're focused on the afterlife. But the enslaved people were singing in code. Every spiritual had two meanings. The surface, meaning that was safe, and the real meaning that was revolutionary. Let me give you some examples. Swing Low, Sweet Chariot. Beautiful song, right? Sounds like it's about dying and going to heaven, about a chariot coming to carry your soul home. But that's not what it meant. Sweet Chariot was code for the Underground Railroad, that secret network of safe houses and routes that helped enslaved people escape to freedom in the North. When someone sang, "Swing Low, Sweet Chariot," they were saying, The Underground Railroad is coming. Get ready to run. I'm looking over Jordan was code, for I'm looking across the Ohio River, the border between slavery states and free states. Coming for to carry me home meant I'm going to escape to freedom. White enslavers heard a nice religious song. Enslaved people heard an escape plan. Or take Go Down Moses. On the surface, it's the story from Exodus. Moses tells Pharaoh, "Let my people go." But listen to what they were really singing. When Israel was in Egypt's land, "Let my people go." Oppressed so hard they could not stand, "Let my people go." Go down, Moses, way down in Egypt's land. Tell old Pharaoh to let my people go. They were singing about themselves. They were calling for a deliverer. They were declaring that God was on the side of the oppressed, not the oppressor. And they were doing it right in front of the people who enslaved them. Wade in the water is another one. Sounds like it's about baptism, right? Wade in the water, children. God's gonna trouble the water. But this was an instruction manual for escaping slavery. When you run away, wade through the water. The rivers, the streams, the swamps. Because the slave catchers use dogs to track your scent, and water breaks the trail. God's gonna trouble the water meant the water will hide your tracks. This wasn't just a song. It was a survival guide sung in plain sight. The music itself was revolutionary too. The enslaved Africans brought musical traditions from West Africa and Central Africa. Call and response, where one person sings a line and the community answers back. Polyrhythm complex, layered rhythms that overlap and weave together. Blue notes, notes that bend and slide between the standard notes of European music notes that sound like crying and hoping at the same time. Improvisation, where no two performances are exactly alike because each person adds their own soul to the song. All of this came from Africa. All of this survived slavery. And all of this became the foundation of every American music genre that came after. And here's the part that should make you furious. This music, these spirituals they worked, they actually helped people escape. Harriet Tubman, the most famous conductor on the Underground Railroad, used these songs as signals. When she was near a plantation, and it was safe to run, she'd sing certain spirituals. The enslaved people knew what it meant. Over 19 trips, Harriet Tubman freed approximately 70 enslaved people using these songs as part of her strategy. She carried a gun, and she carried songs. Both were weapons. Songs freed slaves. Music was literally a tool of liberation. Think about that for a second. Your ancestors were kidnapped from their homeland, forced onto ships where half of them died during the Middle Passage, sold like animals, worked to death, raped, tortured, denied every basic human right. They had nothing. No weapons, no money, no legal rights, no hope by any logical measure. And they created music so powerful, so ingenious, that it helped them survive and escape. That's not just impressive, that's divine. That's the hand of God, working through people who refuse to be broken. But it doesn't end with slavery. After the Civil War ended in 1865 after emancipation, those spirituals didn't disappear. They evolved. The formerly enslaved people were free now, technically, but they were free into a country that hated them. Jim Crow laws. Sharecropping that was basically slavery with a different name. The KKK lynching thousands of black people. Segregation. Second-class citizenship. Constant violence and humiliation. Freedom without resources. Freedom without justice. And still they sang. The black church became the center of everything. It wasn't just a place to worship. It was the only institution black people fully controlled. It was the school, the community center, the political headquarters, the place where you could be fully human for a few hours every week. And the music in those churches, it grew, it expanded. It added instruments, pianos and organs and guitars and drums. It got louder, more joyful, more defiant. It went from spirituals to something new, something more complex and more powerful. It became gospel music, and gospel music. The gospel music we know today, the kind with full choirs and soaring solos and instruments and arrangements that didn't just happen naturally. It was created by one man, a man who played the blues in clubs and bars, a man who lost everything he loved in one terrible week, a man who sat at a piano in his grief and wrote the song that changed everything. His name was Thomas Andrew Dorsey. And before we talk about how gospel conquered the world, you need to know his story. Because his story is the story of how pain becomes power, how loss becomes legacy, how the blues and the church, two things that weren't supposed to mix, came together and created something eternal. Hold that thought. Because what Thomas Dorsey did, the way he combined the so-called devil's music with God's music, it made him one of the most controversial figures in Black church history. Pastors banned his songs. Churches threw him out. They called him a heretic. But he kept going. And the song he wrote, the one that came from his darkest moment, became the most recorded gospel song of all time. That song has been sung at more funerals, more church services, more moments of grief and hope than any other song in history. And you need to know why. Thomas Andrew Dorsey was born on July 1st, 1899 in Villa Rica, Georgia. His father was a revivalist preacher, the kind who traveled from church to church, leading intense emotional services. His mother was a church organist and piano teacher. So Thomas grew up surrounded by church music, hymns, spirituals, the old songs. He learned piano from his mother. He learned about God from his father. He knew the church inside and out, but he also knew something else. The blues. Villa Rica was a small town, but it was alive with music. Not just church music. The blues, ragtime, the music that came out of juke joints and barrel houses, the music that church people called sinful, the music that made your body move and your heart ache. Young Thomas was drawn to it like a magnet. By the time he was a teenager, he was sneaking out to play piano at parties and clubs. He was good, really good, and he loved it. The freedom of it, the rawness, the way blues music didn't hide anything. It was about real life, heartbreak, poverty, desire, pain, everything the church said you weren't supposed to talk about. When Thomas was in his early 20s, he moved to Chicago. This was during the Great Migration, when millions of Black people fled the South, looking for better opportunities in northern cities. Chicago was exploding with Black culture. Jazz clubs, blues bars, house parties. Thomas dove right in. He started going by the name Georgia Tom. He played piano for some of the biggest blues artists of the era. He worked with Ma Rainey, one of the first great blues singers. He wrote blues songs. He performed in clubs. He made decent money. He was living the life. But he felt torn, split down the middle, because Thomas couldn't shake his church upbringing. He'd be playing blues on Saturday night and feel guilty about it Sunday morning. He'd write a blues song about drinking and cheating and then feel convicted. He tried to quit the blues multiple times. He'd rededicate his life to church music, write some gospel songs, try to get churches to sing them. But the churches rejected him. They said his music was too bluesy, too worldly. It had that swing to it, that rhythm, that feeling. Church music was supposed to be dignified, reserved, proper. Thomas's music made people want to clap and shout and move. Church leaders didn't like that, so Thomas would go back to the blues, back to Georgia Tom, back to the clubs. This went on for years. He was caught between two worlds, the sacred and the secular. the church and the street. He couldn't fully commit to either one. And then, in 1932, everything changed. Thomas was 33 years old. He was married to a woman named Nettie Harper. They had been married for several years, and Nettie was pregnant with their first child. Thomas was trying again to focus on gospel music. He had started the Gospel Choral Union of Chicago. He was writing new songs, trying to convince churches to accept his style. It was slow going, but he was making progress. In late August 1932, Thomas was scheduled to lead a gospel music revival in St. Louis, Missouri. It was a big opportunity, a chance to showcase his songs to new churches, new audiences. Nettie was heavily pregnant, but she encouraged him to go. She'd be fine. His friends would check on her. Thomas went to St. Louis, and while he was there leading the revival, he got a telegram. Nettie had gone into labor. There were complications. Come home immediately. Thomas caught the first train back to Chicago, but he was too late. By the time he got home, Nettie was dead. She had died in childbirth. And the baby, a little boy, he died too. Less than 24 hours after being born, Thomas walked into his house, and his wife was gone. His son was gone. Everything was gone. In one day, his entire future had been erased. The grief hit him like a physical blow. He stopped eating, stopped sleeping, stopped talking. He fell into a depression so deep that his friends thought he might die too. He couldn't pray, couldn't sing, couldn't do anything. He just sat in his house in the dark and felt like God had abandoned him. For days, Thomas couldn't function. Friends brought food. He didn't eat it. They tried to comfort him. He couldn't hear them. He was drowning in grief. And then, about a week after Nettie and the baby died, Thomas found himself alone in a church. Pilgrim Baptist Church in Chicago. It was empty, quiet, just him and a piano. He sat down on the bench. He didn't plan to play, he just sat there. But then his hands moved to the keys, and he started playing a blues progression. Slow, mournful, the kind of melody that sounds like weeping. And then words came. Not words he thought up. Words that came from somewhere deeper, from the pit of his grief, from his broken heart crying out to God. Precious Lord, take my hand. Lead me on. Let me stand. I am tired. I am weak. I am worn. Through the storm, through the night, lead me on to the light. Take my hand, precious Lord, lead me home. Thomas played through his tears. He sang through his pain. And what came out was something nobody had ever heard before. It was blues. The chord progressions, the melody, the feeling, pure blues. But the words, the message, the spirit, pure gospel. It was a prayer set to the music of suffering. It was church meeting the street. Sacred meeting broken. And it was perfect. Thomas Dorsey had finally done what he'd been trying to do his whole life. He had combined the blues with gospel. And he had created something that would change music forever. He called the song, Take My Hand, Precious Lord. And at first, nobody wanted it. Churches still said it was too bluesy, too emotional, too much like the world. But Thomas didn't care anymore. He had written this song in his lowest moment. It was real. It was honest. It was what he needed to survive. And he believed other people needed it too. So he kept pushing. He taught it to choirs. He performed it himself. He printed copies and handed them out. And slowly, very slowly, people started to sing it. And when they sang it, something happened. People who were grieving felt seen. People who were struggling felt understood. People who were barely holding on felt held by God. Take my hand. Precious Lord spread across black churches in Chicago, then across Illinois, then across the country. Within a few years, it was being sung in thousands of churches. It became the song people requested at funerals, the song people sang when they lost someone, the song that carried people through their darkest valleys. And it's still being sung today. Almost 100 years later, it's been recorded more than 3,000 times by gospel singers, jazz musicians, country artists, pop stars. Mahalia Jackson made it her signature song. Elvis Presley sang it. Aretha Franklin sang it. It was sung at the funeral of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., at the funeral of Lyndon B. Johnson, at countless funerals of regular people whose names nobody remembers, but whose grief was just as real. Thomas Dorsey lived until 1993. He died at 93 years old. And over those 6 decades after he wrote Precious Lord, he wrote more than 3,000 songs. About 1,000 of them were gospel songs. Songs like Peace in the Valley, which became a massive hit. Songs like If You See My Savior. Songs that sold millions of copies and were sung in churches around the world. He founded the National Convention of Gospel Choirs and Choruses in 1933, an organization that trained thousands of gospel singers and musicians. He mentored young artists. He taught them his style. He showed them how to combine emotion with technique, how to make church music that made you feel something. And most importantly, Thomas Dorsey proved something that changed everything. He proved that you could bring instruments into the church: piano, guitar, drums, bass. He proved that gospel music could swing, could have rhythm, could make people clap and dance and shout. He proved that you didn't have to choose between the blues and the gospel, that pain and praise could coexist, that being real about your struggles didn't mean you had weak faith. It meant you had honest faith. And the black church slowly but surely accepted it, embraced it, made it the standard. By the 1940s, gospel music was everywhere in black communities. Every church had a gospel choir. Every city had gospel groups performing. Gospel records were selling. Gospel radio shows were broadcasting. And it was all built on the foundation Thomas Dorsey created. Blues structure with gospel lyrics. Emotional honesty with spiritual truth. Music that made your body move and your soul soar at the same time. This was the new sound. This was what would change America. But gospel music needed a voice. It needed someone who could take Thomas Dorsey's songs and make the whole world listen. It needed someone with a voice so powerful, so anointed, so undeniable, that even people who hated black people couldn't ignore it. It needed someone who would refuse to compromise, refuse to sell out, refuse to sing anything but gospel, even when fame and money were on the table. It needed Mahalia Jackson. And what she did with that voice, the way she used it, not just for music, but for freedom, for justice, for revolution, that's what we need to talk about next. Because Mahalia Jackson didn't just sing gospel, she weaponized it. Mahalia Jackson was born on October 26, 1911, in New Orleans, Louisiana. If you know anything about New Orleans, you know it's the birthplace of jazz. Louis Armstrong, Jelly Roll Morton, Sidney Bechet. Some of the greatest musicians in American history came from New Orleans. And young Mahalia grew up surrounded by that sound. She heard jazz on every street corner. She heard blues coming from the clubs. She heard the brass bands marching through the neighborhoods. But her family was deeply religious, church people. And in her house, that worldly music was forbidden. Mahalia's mother, Charity Clark, died when Mahalia was only 5 years old. So Mahalia was raised by an Aunt Duke in a neighborhood called Black Pearl in the Carrollton area of New Orleans. They lived in a tiny house, 3 rooms total, shared between multiple families. They were poor, really poor. Mahalia's father, Johnny Jackson, worked on the docks as a longshoreman and preached at a small Baptist church on Sundays. There was never enough money, never enough food, but there was always church, and there was always music. Mahalia started singing in church when she was 4 years old. Even as a little girl, her voice was different, powerful, deep, rich. When she sang, adults stopped and listened. But Mahalia didn't just sing the hymns the way they were written. She added runs. She bent notes. She improvised. She sang the way she felt the song should go. And church mothers would pull her aside and scold her. "That's not how we sing in church, child. You're making it sound like the blues. Sing it proper." But Mahalia couldn't help it. That's just how the music came out of her. As Mahalia got older, the church ladies got stricter. They told her she was singing like Bessie Smith, the famous blues singer, like Ma Rainey, like the women who sang in juke joints. That was an insult in the church. But Mahalia knew those singers. She'd heard their records, and secretly she loved them. She loved the way they sang with their whole chest, the way they didn't hold anything back. She wanted to sing like that, but for God. She wanted to take that raw, emotional, powerful style and use it to praise Jesus. In 1927, when Mahalia was 16 years old, she left New Orleans. She joined the Great Migration, that massive movement of black people fleeing the South for better opportunities in the North. She took a train to Chicago to live with her Aunt Hannah and other relatives. Chicago was overwhelming. It was cold. It was crowded. It was nothing like New Orleans. But it was also alive with possibility. There were jobs. There was less overt racism, at least compared to the South. And there were churches everywhere. Big churches. Churches with real choirs and musicians and programs. Mahalia got a job working for a white family doing their laundry and cleaning their house. The pay was terrible. The work was exhausting. But it was steady. And on Sundays, she sang. She joined the choir at Greater Salem Baptist Church. And people noticed her immediately. This girl from New Orleans, with the huge voice. The voice that shook the walls. The voice that made you feel like God was in the room. Within a few years, Mahalia was singing solos. People started inviting her to sing at other churches, at funerals, at revivals. And that's when she met Thomas Dorsey. This was the early 1930s, right around the time Dorsey was creating his new gospel sound. He heard Mahalia sing and knew immediately. This was the voice his songs needed. He asked Mahalia to join him as he traveled to different churches promoting his music. She agreed. For years, Mahalia Jackson and Thomas Dorsey toured together. She sang his songs. He accompanied her on piano. They went from church to church, city to city, trying to convince congregations to accept this new style of gospel music. And it was hard. Most churches rejected them. Too jazzy, too bluesy, too emotional, too much like the world. But Mahalia didn't quit. She believed in the music. She believed God had given her this voice for a purpose, and she made a decision early on that she would never compromise. Never. Record companies approached her, jazz labels, blues labels. They offered her money to sing secular music. Louis Armstrong, who knew her from New Orleans, begged her to sing jazz with him. Duke Ellington wanted her for his orchestra. They offered her thousands of dollars more money than she'd ever seen. She said no every single time. Gospel only. Church only. God only. No exceptions. In 1947, everything changed. Mahalia was 36 years old, and she recorded a song called "Move On Up a Little Higher." It was a gospel song with a driving rhythm, and Mahalia's voice soaring over the top. The record company pressed a few thousand copies, expecting modest sales in the black church market. But something happened. The record exploded. It sold 100,000 copies in the first few months, then 100,000 more. Then it crossed over 1 million copies sold. A gospel song, 1 million copies. That had never happened before. Mahalia Jackson became the first gospel artist to sell 1 million records. She became a star, But she didn't change. She still refused to sing anything but gospel. She used her new fame to travel even more. She sang at Carnegie Hall in New York in 1950, the first gospel singer, to headline that prestigious venue. The place was packed. Black people and white people together, which almost never happened in 1950. She toured Europe in 1952 and was greeted like royalty. In France, in England, in Germany, people who didn't speak English, who had never been to a black church, who didn't understand the cultural context they heard Mahalia Jackson sing, and they wept. Because her voice transcended language. It transcended culture. It was pure spirit. In 1954, CBS gave Mahalia her own radio show, then a television show. She became the first gospel singer with a national TV program. She signed a recording contract with Columbia Records for $50,000 a year, an astronomical sum for a black artist in the 1950s. That's about $590,000 in today's money. She could have done anything. Gone pop, gone jazz, made even more money. She didn't. She stayed true. "Gospel music is my life," she said in interviews. "I will not sing the devil's music. This voice is a gift from God, and I will only use it for Him." And then the civil rights movement began, and Mahalia Jackson's voice became a weapon. In 1956, a young preacher named Martin Luther King Jr. was leading a bus boycott in Montgomery, Alabama. Black people were refusing to ride the segregated buses. They were walking to work, carpooling, organizing, and they needed money. Money for gas, money for legal fees, money to sustain the boycott for months. Dr. King reached out to Mahalia Jackson. Would she come to Montgomery and sing to raise funds? Mahalia didn't hesitate. She was there. She sang in churches. She sang at rallies. White supremacists sent death threats. They said they would bomb the church. They said they would kill her. She sang anyway. And her voice gave people courage. When people heard Mahalia Jackson sing, they believed God was on their side. They believed they could win. They believed freedom was coming. For the next 12 years, Mahalia Jackson was the voice of the movement. Every major event, she was there. When Dr. King needed funds, he called Mahalia. When the movement needed morale, they called Mahalia. She sang at the prayer pilgrimage for freedom in 1957. She sang at the sit-ins. She sang at the marches. She sang in small churches in the Deep South, where people were risking their lives just by showing up. And everywhere she sang, people found strength. Because Mahalia's voice didn't just sound good. It sounded like victory. It sounded like God had already won, and the oppressors just didn't know it yet. And then came August 28th, 1963, the March on Washington. We already talked about that day at the beginning of this video, 250,000 people at the Lincoln Memorial. Mahalia sang before Dr. King spoke. She sang, "I've been booked and I've been scorned," an old spiritual about persecution and survival. Her voice rolled over that massive crowd, and people lost it. Grown men crying, women shouting. This wasn't a concert. This was church. This was a revival. This was the sound of freedom taking form. And then Dr. King started his speech. He was reading from his prepared remarks. They were good, strong, but a little academic, a little safe. Mahalia was sitting behind him on the stage. She knew Martin. She'd heard him preach dozens of times. She knew when he was holding back. She knew he had something better. So she shouted, "Tell them about the dream, Martin. Tell them about the dream." King paused. He looked back at her. He pushed his written speech aside. And then he started speaking from his soul. "I have a dream." The most famous part of the most famous speech in American history came because Mahalia Jackson told Martin Luther King Jr. to stop playing it safe and preach. That's the power of gospel music. That's what it does. It doesn't just make you feel good. It makes you brave. It makes you truthful. It makes you unstoppable. Mahalia Jackson's voice literally changed the course of history that day. And she kept going. She sang at the Selma marches in 1965. She sang to protesters who had just been beaten by police. She sang to people who were terrified, but still marching. Her voice was a shield, a sword, a banner. And then on April 4th, 1968, Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. was assassinated in Memphis, Tennessee. The movement lost its leader. The country erupted in riots and grief. And at Dr. King's funeral in Atlanta, in Ebenezer Baptist Church, Mahalia Jackson stood and sang. She sang, "Take My Hand, Precious Lord," the song Thomas Dorsey wrote in his grief, the song Dr. King had requested be sung at his funeral if anything ever happened to him. Mahalia's voice was breaking. You could hear the pain, the sorrow, but she sang it anyway. She sang it for Martin, for Coretta, for the movement, for everyone who had lost hope that day. And somehow, even in that darkness, her voice still carried light. After Dr. King's death, Mahalia pulled back from political activism. She kept singing, kept recording, kept touring. But the fight had taken its toll. She had health problems, diabetes, heart issues, the stress of decades of struggle. On January 27, 1972, Mahalia Jackson died in Chicago. She was 60 years old. Her funeral was massive. Thousands of people lined up to pay respects. Aretha Franklin sang. Jesse Jackson spoke. Politicians, activists, musicians, regular people. Everyone came to honor the woman who had sung them through the hardest times of their lives. Mahalia Jackson's legacy is impossible to measure. Every gospel singer after her learned from her. Her vocal style, the way she used melisma running through multiple notes on a single syllable, the way she shouted and growled and whispered and soared, that became the template. Aretha Franklin was mentored by Mahalia. Whitney Houston studied her. Mariah Carey learned technique from listening to her records. Even secular artists, people who never sang gospel, they all acknowledge the debt. You can't sing soul music without understanding gospel. And you can't understand gospel without understanding Mahalia Jackson. But here's what's crucial. Mahalia didn't just influence music. She proved that the gospel wasn't just for church. It was for the streets, for the movement, for justice. She proved that sacred music could be political, that praising God and demanding freedom weren't separate things. They were the same thing. When Mahalia sang, "We Shall Overcome," she wasn't just singing a protest song. She was praying. She was prophesying. She was declaring that God was on the side of the oppressed, and victory was inevitable. And people believed her, because her voice made it true. Now, here's where it gets even more important. Because while Mahalia Jackson was establishing gospel as a powerful, respected genre, something else was happening. Young black musicians who had grown up in the church were starting to take that gospel sound and apply it to secular music. They were creating something brand new, something the world had never heard before. They were creating soul music, and that sound that gospel influenced. Soul sound. It would take over American music. It would birth R&B. It would birth rock and roll. It would birth everything. But before we get there, you need to understand something. The transition from gospel to secular music was controversial. Really controversial. Because in the black church there was a strict line. Gospel was sacred, blues was worldly, jazz was the devil's music. And if you crossed that line, if you took the techniques you learned in church and used them to sing about love or heartbreak or dancing, you were a traitor. You were backsliding. You were using God's gift for Satan's purposes. That's what the church said. But some artists did it anyway. And they changed the world. Soul music didn't just appear out of nowhere. It was created intentionally by artists who understood that gospel music was too powerful to be contained in church. They took the structure of gospel, the emotional intensity, the vocal techniques, the call, and response. The improvisation, everything that made gospel powerful, and they applied it to songs about regular life. Love, pain, joy, struggle, freedom. And what came out was soul. Music that sounds like church, but talks about Saturday night. Music that makes you want to shout hallelujah and dance at the same time. Music that feels spiritual, even when it's not religious. The first person to really do this successfully was Ray Charles. Ray Charles Robinson was born in 1930 in Albany, Georgia. He grew up singing in church, gospel songs, spirituals. That's where he learned music. But Ray went blind at age 7, and his mother sent him to a school for blind children, where he learned to read music in Braille and play piano. By his teenage years, he was playing professionally. Jazz, blues, R&B, making a living as a musician. And he was good, really good. But he wasn't revolutionary yet. That changed in 1954. Ray Charles was 23 years old, and he was in the studio recording a song called I Got a Woman. Now listen to what he did. He took a gospel song called It Must Be Jesus, a song everybody in the black church knew, and he changed the lyrics. Instead of singing about Jesus, he sang about a woman who loves him. Instead of praising God, he was praising his girlfriend. But the music, the structure, the feeling pure gospel. Piano riffs that sound like church. Backup singers responding like a choir. Ray singing with that raw emotional intensity like he's testifying. The song was a hit, a massive hit, and it created a scandal. Church people were furious. You took a gospel song and made it about a woman. You're mocking God. You're prostituting the sacred. You're going to hell. Radio stations that played gospel refused to play Ray Charles. Preachers condemned him from the pulpit. But Ray didn't apologize. He said, I'm not bringing the devil into the church. I'm bringing God into Saturday night. I'm showing that the sacred and the secular aren't as separate as y'all think. Everything good comes from God, including love, including joy, including music that makes you feel alive. And the people, the regular people outside the church establishment, they loved it. Because Ray Charles was giving them permission to feel spiritual outside of church. He was saying, your whole life can be worship, not just Sunday morning. Your love can be sacred. Your pain can be holy. You don't have to split yourself into church you and real you. You can be whole. That was revolutionary. That was soul music. And it opened the floodgates. Sam Cooke was next. Sam Cooke was born in 1931 in Mississippi, grew up in Chicago. His father was a minister. Sam started singing in church as a child, and by his early 20s, he was the lead singer of the Soul Stirrers, one of the most famous gospel groups in America. Sam Cooke had a voice like velvet, smooth, sweet, effortless. Women loved him. Men wanted to be him. He was a gospel superstar. He could have stayed in gospel his whole life and been comfortable. But in 1957, he made a choice. He left the Soul Stirrers and recorded a secular song called You Send Me. The song was a love song. Simple, tender. But Sam sang it like he was in church, like he was singing to Jesus. That same sincerity, that same emotion. The song went to #1 on the Billboard charts. It sold over 1 million copies. Sam Cooke became a pop star, and the church rejected him. Gospel radio banned his music. Churches that had celebrated him now said he had fallen away. His own father was disappointed. But Sam kept going, because he believed music could do more than just praise God in church. Music could change society, and that's exactly what Sam Cooke did. In 1964, he wrote a song called A Change Is Gonna Come. This was at the height of the civil rights movement. Sam had been following the marches, the sit-ins, the violence against black protesters, and he wrote a song that was part gospel, part blues, part soul. It was about the Black experience in America, about being born by a river, which sounds like baptism, but also like the Middle Passage, about how it's been too hard living, but he's afraid to die, about going to his brother for help and his brother turning him down, about going downtown and being told, "Don't hang around." It was the story of every Black person in America, and the hope the refrain was this: "It's been a long time coming, but I know a change gonna come." Oh, yes it will. That song became an anthem of the civil rights movement. It was gospel hope applied to social justice. It was faith that God would deliver, not just in heaven, but right here on earth. Sam Cooke took the sound of church and made it speak to the struggle. And just a few weeks after that song was released on December 11th, 1964, Sam Cooke was shot and killed at a motel in Los Angeles under suspicious circumstances. He was 33 years old. The official story never quite made sense. Many people believe he was murdered. But his music lived on. "A Change Is Gonna Come" became one of the most important songs in American history. And it proved that soul music could be spiritual, political, and revolutionary all at once. And then there was Aretha Franklin. If Mahalia Jackson was the queen of gospel, Aretha Franklin became the queen of soul. But here's what people forget. Aretha was gospel first. She was born on March 25, 1942 in Memphis, Tennessee. Her father, Reverend C.L. Franklin, was one of the most famous preachers in America. His church in Detroit, New Bethel Baptist Church, was massive. Thousands of members. National radio broadcasts. C.L. Franklin was a celebrity preacher, and his house was filled with gospel royalty. Mahalia Jackson was a family friend. She visited their home. Clara Ward, James Cleveland, all the gospel greats. They knew Aretha's family. Aretha started singing in her father's church when she was a little girl. By the time she was 12, she was recording gospel albums. And her voice, even as a child, was astonishing, powerful, anointed. She had learned directly from Mahalia Jackson, watching her, studying her, absorbing her technique. Aretha could have stayed in gospel forever. But in 1960, when she was 18, she decided to try secular music. She signed with Columbia Records and started recording jazz and pop songs. She had some minor success, but she hadn't found her sound yet. She was singing other people's arrangements, other people's vision. Then in 1967, Aretha signed with Atlantic Records and started working with producer Jerry Wexler. And Wexler understood something crucial. Don't make Aretha sound like a pop singer. Let her sound like church. Let her testify. Let her preach through the songs. And that's what they did. Aretha's first album with Atlantic included a song called Respect. It was originally written and recorded by Otis Redding. But Aretha took it and transformed it. She added the RESPECT spelling section. She added the backup singers responding like a church choir. She sang it like she was demanding justice from the pulpit. And it became an anthem for women, an anthem for Black people, an anthem for anyone who had ever been disrespected and was done accepting it. Respect went to #1. It won Grammy Awards. It made Aretha Franklin a superstar. But more than that, it proved that gospel techniques could make secular music transcendent. Every song Aretha sang, even if it was about love or heartbreak, sounded like church. Chain of Fools. Think. I Never Loved a Man the Way I Love You. Natural Woman. Every single one had that gospel DNA. The improvisation, the vocal runs, the way she'd start soft and build to a crescendo that felt like the Holy Spirit was moving. That was all church, all gospel. And it worked because Aretha never tried to hide where she came from. She embraced it. She brought the church to the world. And here's the thing. Aretha, Sam Cooke, Ray Charles, they weren't alone. James Brown, the godfather of soul, started in church. Otis Redding Church. Wilson Pickett Church, Curtis Mayfield Church, Al Green Church. Every major soul artist of the 1960s and 70s learned their craft in the Black church. They learned how to sing with emotion, how to connect with an audience, how to make people feel something. And they took that training and applied it to secular music. And it changed everything, because soul music wasn't just popular in Black communities. White people loved it too. Teenagers who had never set foot in a Black church were buying records by Aretha Franklin and Marvin Gaye and Stevie Wonder. They were hearing gospel techniques without even knowing it. They were being moved by music that came directly from the Black church tradition. And this started to influence white musicians. The Beatles studied Motown. The Rolling Stones covered soul songs. Elvis Presley, who grew up attending Black church services in Mississippi, sang gospel his entire life. He said his favorite music was gospel. His vocal style, all those runs and emotional deliveries came from Black church music. And this is where we need to talk about rock and roll. Because the lie they told you in school is that Elvis Presley invented rock and roll, or that it was Chuck Berry, or Little Richard. And those artists were important, don't get me wrong, but they didn't invent anything. They took what already existed in Black church music and secularized it. Rock and roll is gospel music with a backbeat and lyrics about cars and romance instead of Jesus. That's it. That's the whole formula. Sister Rosetta Tharpe, a Black woman gospel singer, was playing electric guitar and singing with that rock and roll energy in the 1930s and 40s. Decades before Elvis. She influenced everybody. Chuck Berry studied her. Little Richard studied her. Jerry Lee Lewis studied her. But she's barely mentioned in rock history. Why? Because they couldn't handle the truth. That rock and roll, the music that supposedly represents rebellious white teenagers, came from a Black woman singing about Jesus. So they erased her. They gave credit to everyone except the source. Little Richard himself said it plainly. I am the architect of rock and roll. And Little Richard was a gay Black man from Georgia who started as a gospel singer and brought that church energy to songs like Tutti Frutti and Long Tall Sally. He was dangerous, too Black, too queer, too much. So white artists covered his songs, toned them down, and got rich. Pat Boone covered Tutti Frutti and had a bigger hit with it than Little Richard did. Why? Because white radio stations wouldn't play Little Richard's version. They said it was too wild, too sexual. What they meant was too Black. This happened over and over. Big Mama Thornton recorded Hound Dog in 1952. It was a blues song with gospel energy. She sang it with power and attitude. 3 years later, Elvis Presley recorded the same song, sang it almost the same way, and became the king of rock and roll. Big Mama Thornton died broke. Elvis died a multimillionaire. That's not coincidence. That's theft. Cultural theft on a massive scale. They took the sound, the style, the energy that Black people created in churches, and juke joints and cotton fields packaged it for white audiences and made fortunes while the creators got nothing. And it's still happening today. Modern R&B, the music you hear on the radio right now, is all built on gospel foundations. Listen to Beyoncé. She grew up singing in church in Houston. Her vocal runs her power, her ability to make you feel every word that's gospel training. Listen to Alicia Keys. Church background, John Legend. Church, Usher. Church, Mary J. Blige. Church, Fantasia. Church, Jennifer Hudson. Church. The list goes on forever. 90% of major R&B and soul artists grew up in Black churches. That's where they learned to sing. That's where they learned what music could do. Even hip-hop, which seems far removed from church, is connected. Because hip-hop is about storytelling, truth, telling, speaking what others won't say. That's exactly what spirituals did. That's exactly what gospel does. And some hip-hop artists have made the connection explicit. Kanye West's Jesus Walks brought gospel choirs into hip-hop. Kirk Franklin merged gospel with rap and created a whole new genre. Chance the Rapper talks openly about his faith and incorporates gospel elements. Kendrick Lamar samples gospel songs and talks about spiritual struggle. The connection is undeniable, but here's what makes this especially painful. All of this music, all of these genres that came from gospel, from the black church, they generate billions of dollars every year. The music industry is worth about $26 billion annually as of 2024. A huge portion of that comes from soul, R&B, hip-hop genres that wouldn't exist without gospel music. And who benefits? Mostly not black people. Mostly not black churches. Mostly not black communities. Record labels, most of them owned by white executives, take the majority of profits. Streaming services pay artists pennies while making billions. And even black artists who do succeed often get underpaid compared to their white counterparts. And black churches, the institutions that created this entire musical tradition, many of them are struggling financially. Small churches closing down. Historic churches that were part of the civil rights movement falling apart because there's no money to maintain them. The irony is sickening. We created the soundtrack of America and got almost nothing in return. Our music made the world dance, and we're still fighting for scraps. This is why we need to talk about reparations. Not just for slavery, not just for Jim Crow, but for cultural theft. For the fact that gospel music created by enslaved people and their descendants became the foundation of a multi-billion-dollar industry that has systematically excluded and exploited black people. Every dollar made from soul music should acknowledge where it came from. Every Rock and Roll Hall of Fame induction should start with Sister Rosetta Tharpe. Every music history class should teach that American music begins in the black church, and black communities should receive investment resources, compensation for what was taken and what continues to be taken. If this truth is hitting you hard right now, if you're realizing how much has been stolen and how much has been hidden, I need you to do something. Comment the word truth below. Hit that like button and share this video. Share it with your children who need to know their history. Share it with your friends who love music but don't know where it came from. Share it with anyone who will listen, because they are still trying to erase this. Music documentaries still give credit to white artists and barely mention the black church. Textbooks still teach that Elvis invented rock and roll. Streaming playlists still bury gospel music while promoting everything it influenced. We have to preserve this truth ourselves. Nobody else will do it for us. But I don't want to leave you in anger. Because yes, we should be angry about what was stolen, but we should also be incredibly proud of what was created. Think about this. Your ancestors enslaved people had nothing. No rights, no freedom, no resources. They weren't even allowed to read. And they created music so powerful that it literally shaped the entire world's culture. They created spirituals that freed slaves. They created gospel that fueled a civil rights movement. They created soul that defined generations. They created sounds that every culture on earth now recognizes and loves. You are not descended from victims. You are descended from creators, from innovators, from geniuses who took pain and turned it into beauty, who took chains and turned them into songs, who took oppression and turned it into art that liberated millions. That's in your DNA, that creative power, that resilience, that ability to make something out of nothing. Don't ever let anyone make you feel less than. Don't ever let anyone convince you that black people haven't contributed to America. We built this country's infrastructure with our labor, and we built this country's soul with our music. Every time Beyoncé steps on stage and brings down the house, She's channeling your grandmother in the church pew. Every time Stevie Wonder plays, he's honoring the blind gospel singers who came before him. Every time a gospel choir sings, they're continuing a tradition that survived the Middle Passage, survived slavery, survived Jim Crow, survived everything designed to break us. And it's still here, still powerful, still transforming lives. And gospel music is still alive today. It didn't die with Mahalia Jackson. It didn't fade away. It evolved. Kirk Franklin took gospel and mixed it with hip-hop in the 1990s and brought a whole new generation into the fold. His song, Stomp, crossed over to mainstream radio. Suddenly, young people who had never been to church were hearing gospel and loving it. Yolanda Adams, Tasha Cobbs, Leonard Marvin Sapp. They're selling out arenas. Gospel albums still chart on Billboard. Gospel songs still get millions of streams on Spotify. In 2019, Kanye West released an entire gospel album called Jesus is King. It went #1 on the Billboard 200. A gospel album in 2019 topping the charts. That proves the power is still there. The hunger for that sound, for that spirit, hasn't gone anywhere. People are still searching for music that touches something deeper than just their ears. Music that reaches their soul. And that's what gospel does. That's what it's always done. And it's not just in America anymore. Gospel music has spread around the world. Churches in Africa, in Europe, in Asia, in Latin America, they're singing gospel songs. They're using the call and response style. They're incorporating the emotional intensity. Black church music from America has become a universal language of hope and praise. That's the legacy. That's what your ancestors built. A gift to the entire world. But we can't forget the current struggle. Because while gospel music thrives, the people who created it are still fighting for justice. The wealth gap between black and white Americans is obscene. The median white household has about $188,000 in wealth. The median black household has about $24,000. That gap exists because of slavery, yes, but also because of everything that came after. Redlining that prevented black people from buying homes in good neighborhoods. Urban renewal that destroyed thriving black business districts. The GI Bill that gave benefits to white veterans but excluded black veterans. The war on drugs that incarcerated millions of black men. Predatory lending, employment discrimination. Every system designed to keep black people from building wealth. And culture is part of that theft, too. When white artists make millions off a sound created by black people, when record labels profit off black music while underpaying black artists, when the music industry uses black culture for profit but doesn't invest in black communities, that's theft. That's extraction. And it's ongoing. So what do? We demand truth. We demand that schools teach the real history of American music. We demand that documentaries and textbooks credit the black church. We support black artists. We stream their music. We buy their albums. We go to their concerts. We make sure our dollars go to the people who deserve them. We support black churches. Not just the mega churches. The small churches in struggling neighborhoods. The historic churches that need repairs. The churches that are still doing the work of feeding and educating and empowering black communities. And we teach our children. This is crucial. Your children need to know this history. They need to know that their ancestors weren't just slaves. They were creators, musicians, innovators. They need to know that every time they hear music that moves them, there's probably gospel influence in there. They need to know that the black church is not just a place you go on Sunday. It's the birthplace of American culture. And they need to be proud. Proud of where they come from. Proud of what their people created. Proud of the legacy they carry. Because here's the truth. Gospel music is resistance music. It always has been. When enslaved people sang spirituals, they were resisting the lie that they were less than human. When Thomas Dorsey wrote gospel blues, he was resisting the idea that sacred and secular had to be separate. When Mahalia Jackson sang at the March on Washington, she was resisting segregation and oppression. When Ray Charles and Sam Cooke took gospel to the mainstream, they were resisting the boundaries white society tried to put on black expression. And when Aretha Franklin mixes gospel with hip-hop, when Kanye releases Jesus is King, when your local church choir sings every Sunday, they're all continuing that resistance, because the world still wants black people to be quiet, to be small, to accept injustice, to forget our history, to stop demanding what's owed. But as long as we're singing, we can't be silenced. As long as we're making music, we can't be erased. As long as we're telling the truth through our art, the lies can't stand. So let me tell you who you are. You are not a victim. You are a survivor of genocide. Your ancestors survived the Middle Passage when millions died. They survived slavery when they were treated as property. They survived Jim Crow when they were terrorized daily. They survived all of it. And they didn't just survive. They thrived. They created. They built. They sang. That strength is in your blood. That creativity is in your DNA. That resilience is your inheritance. You are descended from people who were millionaires in Black Wall Street before it was burned down. You are descended from people who built thriving communities that were systematically destroyed. You are descended from people who invented entire genres of music with nothing but their voices and their faith. You are descended from warriors, from artists, from prophets, from people who looked at impossible odds and said, "Watch me anyway." Your poverty, if you're struggling, that's not your fault. That's not because you're lazy or because you made bad choices. That's because wealth was systematically stolen from your family for generations. Your lack of generational wealth isn't a personal failing. It's the result of centuries of theft. And recognizing that isn't making excuses. It's telling the truth. It's demanding justice. God preserved your ancestors for a reason. Think about it. God brought them through the Middle Passage when half the captives died on those slave ships. Why did your ancestors survive when others didn't? God brought them through slavery when millions died in the fields. Why did your ancestor make it? God brought them through lynchings and massacres and Jim Crow. Why are you here? Why do you exist? It's not random. It's not luck. You have a purpose. You have a mission. And part of that mission is this: to know the truth, to speak the truth, to pass the truth to the next generation, to reclaim what was stolen, to demand what's owed, to refuse to accept the lies, to be proud of where you come from, to honor your ancestors by living fully, by creating boldly, by resisting injustice wherever you find it. When you listen to gospel music, you're not just enjoying a song. You're connecting with your ancestors. You're continuing a tradition that survived hell and created heaven's sounds. You're participating in resistance. You're declaring that we're still here, we're still strong, and we're not going anywhere. If you've never been to a black church service, I'm telling you, go. Experience it. Feel the power of gospel music in person. Let it wash over you. Let it fill your soul, because there's nothing else like it in the world. The energy, the emotion, the sense that God is right there in the room, it's real, it's powerful, and it's yours. It's your heritage. Don't let anyone take that from you. And if you have been going to church your whole life, if you grew up singing these songs, don't take it for granted. Recognize what you have. Recognize the gift. Those songs your grandmother sang, those hymns you learned as a child, that's not just religion. That's history. That's resistance. That's the sound of people who refuse to be broken. Honor it. Preserve it. Teach it to your children. This is your inheritance. Gospel music. Soul music. The sound of freedom. The sound of resilience. The sound of faith that moved mountains. No one can take that from you. They tried. They stole the sound and made billions. They erased the history in textbooks. They gave credit to everyone except the source. But they couldn't kill it. Because this music is anointed. It's covered by God. It's protected by the blood of ancestors who sang it into existence. So walk in pride. Your voice is power. Your music is freedom. Your history is rich and deep and world-changing. The world tried to silence you. You sang louder. They tried to steal your sound. It remains yours. You are the children of singers, the descendants of soul. You are the heirs of a musical tradition that shaped the entire world. Never forget. Every note of freedom in America was born in the Black church. Every song that ever made someone feel less alone. Every melody that ever gave someone hope. Every rhythm that ever made someone dance. It all traces back to enslaved Africans singing in the darkness and choosing faith over despair. That's your legacy. Own it. Celebrate it. Protect it. Pass it on. Before we close, I need you to do one more thing. Subscribe to this channel. We're not stopping here. There are hundreds more stories like this. Stories about Black excellence that was erased. Stories about wealth that was stolen. Stories about achievements that were buried. Stories you need to know. Stories your children need to know. This is our history, and we have to preserve it ourselves because no one else will do it for us. Comment below and tell me, what gospel song changed your life? Who introduced you to gospel music? How has the Black church impacted you? Let's build a community here. Let's share our stories. Let's make sure this truth spreads. And share this video. Share it on Facebook. Share it on Twitter. Share it in your family group chat. Share it with people who love music but don't know where it came from. Share it with your children, your grandchildren, anyone who will listen. Because this isn't revenge. This is truth and reclamation. This isn't anger. This is pride and celebration. This is our story, and we must tell it. They're still trying to erase this history. Music documentaries still skip over the Black church. Textbooks still don't teach gospel origins. They still give Elvis credit for inventing rock and roll. They still pretend American music just appeared out of nowhere. We have to fight that. With truth, with persistence, with pride. Make sure your children know. Make sure the next generation knows. Every note of American music flows from the Black church. Every genre they love. Every artist they admire. Every song that ever touched their heart. It all comes back to gospel, to spirituals, to enslaved people who turned suffering into songs and songs into freedom. That's the truth, and the truth will set us free. Let us pray. Father God, we come before you with grateful hearts. We thank you for preserving the voices of our ancestors. We thank you for the spirituals that carried them through bondage. We thank you for the gospel music that fueled their freedom. We thank you for the soul music that defined their dignity and their joy. We pray for the spirits of those who came before us, the enslaved men and women who sang in cotton fields and created spirituals. Thomas Dorsey, who turned his deepest grief into the greatest gospel song ever written. Mahalia Jackson, who sang freedom into existence and sparked a dream that changed the world. Sam Cooke, who gave us a vision of change that's still coming. Aretha Franklin, who demanded respect and made the world listen. Every unknown singer in every small church who kept the music alive when the world tried to silence them. We thank you for their sacrifice, for their creativity, for their faith, for their refusal to be broken. We stand on their shoulders today. We sing their songs. We carry their legacy, and we commit to honoring them by telling the truth. Bless those who seek truth about our heritage. Strengthen those who preserve our musical legacy. Vindicate the memories of those whose contributions were stolen and whose names were erased. Give us courage to reclaim what is ours. Give us boldness to demand what we're owed. Give us wisdom to teach the next generation. Let our voices continue to rise. Let our music continue to heal. Let our songs continue to liberate. Let our legacy continue to transform the world. Let every note we sing be an act of resistance and an act of worship. Let every song we create honor you and honor those who came before us. Protect the Black church. Protect gospel music. Protect the tradition that has carried us through centuries of struggle. Don't let it be diluted. Don't let it be stolen. Don't let it be forgotten. Keep it pure. Keep it powerful. Keep it anointed. And give us a vision for the future. Show us how to use this musical inheritance to continue the fight for justice. Show us how to demand reparations with the same boldness our ancestors demanded freedom. Show us how to build wealth and pass it to our children the way gospel music has been passed down through generations. We pray all this in the name of Jesus Christ, the one who sets captives free, the one who gives voice to the voiceless, the one who turns mourning into dancing and sorrow into songs of joy. Amen. Walk in pride. Your voice is power. Your music is freedom. The world tried to silence you, but you sang anyway. They tried to steal your sound, but it remains yours. You are the children of singers, the descendants of soul, the heirs of a tradition that changed the world forever. Never forget. Never let them make you forget. Every note of freedom in America, every song of hope, every melody of resistance was born in the Black church. Your ancestors created the soundtrack of liberation. They turned pain into praise. They turned chains into choruses. They turned oppression into an art form that the whole world now celebrates. This is your inheritance. Claim it, protect it, pass it on. Until next time, sing loud, sing proud, sing free. This is your legacy. Let no one take it from you ever again. God bless you. And remember, the truth will set you free.